honourable members, I am pleased to welcome you to the first sitting of 2015 of the first session of the 6th National Assembly of Mauritius being held today, the 27th of January. It is my honour and privilege to welcome Honourable Sir Anirudh Jagannath, GCSK KCMG QC, as the new Prime Minister and Leader of the House, Honourable Ravi Yerigadu as Attorney General, and Mrs. Santibai Anumanji as Speaker of this Assembly. I bid a special welcome to all the newly elected members whom I wish a fruitful journey at the service of the nation. On the 10th of December 2014, the population overwhelmingly and very clearly expressed its faith and trust in Sir Anirudh Jagannath, his coalition partners and his team to bring meaningful change to the daily life of our people and to lead them towards happiness, prosperity and a better future. Respecting the will of the nation, government will govern for the people, with the people. And this pledge will consistently drive the endeavours and actions of all ministers throughout this mandate. Government's objective is to transform Mauritius into a truly forward-looking, environmentally sustainable, economically vibrant and innovative country with modern infrastructure, global connectivity, high skills and technology. Government will improve quality of life, accelerate social integration, strengthen democracy, and ensure the independent functioning of institutions. The ultimate aim is to shape a second socio-economic miracle in the interests of one and all. Government is committed to conducting business on the principles of discipline, transparency, accountability, and exemplary governance. This implies responsible and judicious use of public funds and a crusade to weed out wastage, an open and transparent bidding and procurement process to combat fraud and corruption, a transparent and merit-based recruitment and appointment policy to ensure meritocracy, an in-depth reform of our public sector institutions to inject productivity, efficiency and quality service, a zero-tolerance policy against crime and violence, freeing our society from the shackles of widespread corruption, favoritism, nepotism, mafia and political interference, and guaranteeing access to information and broadening of the democratic space. Government is committed to warding off unemployment, introducing a minimum wage policy, and implementing a better social housing policy. Government will lay the foundations of a stronger economy and a fairer society. The aim is to promote a healthy business climate that will encourage enterprise and investment, and at the same time ensure happiness and prosperity for our people and a greater sense of belonging to the nation. Government adheres to the principle that in the development process and financial advancement, national wealth must be equitably distributed. The philosophy of développement à visage humain, essence égale pour tous, shall eminently prevail in all our endeavours. Government is convinced that sustainable economic growth cannot be achieved without the integration and participation of the entire population. Consequently, a key consideration of government during its mandate will be to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor, promote social justice, economic empowerment and national unity, and protect the elderly and vulnerable ones. Honourable members, meaningful change starts with a strong focus on the most vulnerable citizens. Only a few days after being sworn into power, government granted a sizable increase in pension payments to the elderly, as well as to the widows, orphans, physically handicapped, and all other recipients of social aid. Thus, the Free Education Act will be reviewed and kept strengthened as a regulator, with a view to providing higher learning opportunities for those in need of fostering greater equity in the system. Government will encourage access to tertiary education for students from low-income families and students with disabilities. The promotion of arts and culture will constitute an important ingredient in nurturing national unity and promoting our tourist industry. Measures measures will be put in place to promote cultural tourism, religious pilgrimage, and film production. In this context, the role and function of the Mauritius Film Development Corporation will be reviewed. Cultural entrepreneurs in the different fields of arts and culture will be given incentives through a startup scheme for new entrepreneurs and a special scheme for existing cultural entrepreneurs, with a view to giving a new impetus to the sector and boosting artistic creativity. The status of the artist project will be implemented to ensure recognition of the professional, social, and economic status of artists. Government will review the regulatory framework for the Rights Management Society for better representations of right holders. A Mauritian History and Culture Museum, retracing history from the creation of Mauritius up to modern time, will be set up. The museum will also depict the different stages of how our country has been populated, the different cultures, as well as our economic evolution. A national e-health project aiming at improving the quality of service delivery across all public health institutions will be implemented. The Medical Council, Dental Council, and Pharmacy Acts will be reviewed in order to be more responsive to the needs and challenges of the health sector. Government will introduce a public service bill to clarify and secure the boundaries within the executive, thus reinforcing transparency, accountability, and integrity. The civil is a stade musical comprising state-of-the-art technology in terms of podium, sound, and light facilities will be constructed to enable local artists as well as international stars to give performances in a highly professional environment. Government will set up a national center for performing arts as well as a multicultural national group to promote cultural diversity and artistic capacity building. The portraits and plaza theatres will be rehabilitated. Better support and facilities will be made available to Mauritians undertaking pilgrimage to Holy Lands. A holistic strategy based on a shared moral and cultural value will be devised in partnership with the media, the civil society, and educational institutions to tackle the phenomenon of increasing societal ills. Over the next 5 years, public infrastructure and land transport will be a key component in transforming Mauritius into a modern, eco-friendly, vibrant, and attractive place to live in, visit, and do business. A new state-of-the-art transport system will provide rapid access and connectivity throughout the country for the population and tourists, fuel economic activities, and promote social integration within the country. The existing system of speed cameras, traffic monitoring, and sanctions will be replaced by a fairer and more socially equitable system. The light railway project initiated by the previous government will be shelved for the time being on economic grounds. With a view to alleviating traffic congestion along the main arteries of the country, a new road decongestion program will be put in place. A number of main roads, highways, flyovers, and secondary roads will be constructed. The operation of the National Transport Corporation will be reorganized and the national bus fleet modernized to provide better services to the travelers. Government will address the long-standing problem of marchand ambulant and provide alternative attractive locations to enable them to continue their trade. Duty-free facilities for taxi owners will be increased from 70% to 100%. Government will ensure that the construction industry operates according to set standard and international norms. The quality of building materials such as cement, steel bars and wires, aggregates, concrete and blocks used in construction will be closely monitored and relevant legislations will be harmonized. Professional Engineering Council and a Building Control Act will be brought to Parliament. The structure, staffing and operations of the Construction Industry Development Board will be reviewed. Government will ensure that the landslide management unit becomes fully operational for the surveillance and investigation of the known suspected areas. National Development Unit, NDU, now under the aegis of the Prime Minister's Office, will be provided with resources and means so that the expectations of our citizens in terms of infrastructure and amenities are fully met. The role of the Citizens Advice Bureau, CAB, as the interface between the government and the public will be reviewed and improved. Governmental basis, the long-standing problem of water supply in the country. Water resources will be mobilized and infrastructure, including pipes, renewed or replaced to reduce water loss and ensure year-round water supply. The Bagatelle Dam will be completed within a year, and a new dam will be constructed at Rivière des Antilles to improve water supply in the south region. The capacity of La Nicolière Reservoir will be increased to satisfy growing demand in the north. New technologically advanced water treatment plants. New legislations will be introduced, namely the Pharmacy Council Bill and the Health Professionals Bill to reorganize and regulate allied health professionals. A private health institution legislation will be introduced to regulate the private health sector. Honourable members, government is fully committed to guaranteeing security and law and order to the citizens of the country and foreigners as well. A zero-tolerance policy will be adopted against child abuse, rapes, kidnapping, mafias, drug trafficking, and abuse of the vulnerable. The police force will be provided with a more conducive working environment, in addition to modern equipment and state-of-the-art technology. This includes the acquisition of 18 light armored personnel carriers to be used for internal security operations, 3 new helicopters, and 1 new Dornier aircraft. A commission of inquiry on drug trafficking will be set up, and governments will pursue relentlessly fight against traffickers while ensuring that our seaport and airport are equipped with state-of-the-art equipment and technology to counter any attempt to introduce drugs in Mauritius. Government will come up with a modern legal framework modeled on the UK Police and Criminal Evidence Act to address the abusiveness and arbitrariness of the present system of provisional charges. Government firmly believes that in order to achieve results, the police force must attract and retain the best competencies. To promote transparency and meritocracy, an independent body will be set up to conduct examinations within the police. Degree holders will be encouraged to join the force, and new incentives will be introduced to reward performance. A central database of criminals will be set up and made accessible online to approved institutions such as the Passport and Immigration Office and police stations. A separate electronic register of pedophiles and other perpetrators of child sexual abuse will be introduced. Police stations will be equipped with CCTV and audio recording systems. Investigations will be conducted in a more professional manner with focus on scientific-led evidence rather than confession. Government intends to introduce electronic monitoring bracelets as an alternative to imprisonment for certain types of suspects who have been released on bail, with a view to better managing the prison population. Government will establish an independent police complaints commission presided by a former judge of the Supreme Court to ensure that fundamental human rights of citizens are respected. Police officers will be allowed to syndicate to safeguard their rights. Government will bring reform to the prison department to ensure that it is properly managed and equipped, and its officers adequately trained to guarantee a targeted and effective rehabilitation of offenders and their successful reintegration in the community. A new legal framework will be introduced for adult detainees aiming at eliminating structural barriers and reviewing sentencing practices by providing more options for alternatives to imprisonment. A new legal framework will be developed for the detention and management of juveniles in custody. Government will finalize the construction of an open prison for female detainees considered as minimum risk inmates. A correctional youth center for girls will be set up under the Prisons Department. Government will set up a National Coalition Against Domestic Violence Committee under the aegis of the Prime Minister's Office. The committee will liaise with the Ministry of Gender Equality, Child Development and Family Welfare, and the Ministry of Social Security, National Solidarity and Reform institutions to ensure that victims of domestic violence are given immediate shelter in a government institution and provided with a job and a house within a reasonable time frame to lead a normal life anew. Government will formulate a new immigration policy and reinforce the Immigration Act to cater for increasing cross-border movement of persons and its associated risks. In line with international best practices, government will modernize the immigration border control system with a view to enhancing the security and safety of passengers. The counter-terrorism unit is being reorganized and given new mandates which will enable it to establish good networking and disseminate timely information to avoid threats. Government will introduce necessary legislation to domesticate the provisions of the Hague Convention on the protection of children and cooperation in respect of inter-country adoption. Government will introduce strong legislation and regulations to address the issue of fake marriages involving locals and foreigners. Government will streamline existing procedures to promote Mauritius as a prime destination for tourist weddings. Will be created to act as a one-stop shop and information center to help track applications made by citizens and provide quick information on government services. Reforms will be brought to the judiciary to expedite determination of court cases and improve services to the public. A new independent court of appeal will be set up. In line with the Mackay report of 1997, government will introduce legislation to set up a separate court of appeal section and a separate high court section of the Supreme Court. In that bill, the required support services for a full-fledged family division will be improved. All district courts premises laws and rules with a view to codify them in line with recent developments in the Commonwealth. Government will make better provision for the rights and interests of victims, and in particular providing in the law for representations by or on behalf of the victim to be taken into account at the sentencing stage. Government will amend the criminal code to provide for a better legal framework for dealing with sexual offences and will enhance the procedural context in which these cases are dealt with. Government will introduce a juvenile justice bill to provide for a more modern juvenile justice system.